It is Beyond the Box Score 2.0 version. The boys are back.
Little blast from the past,
Star-spangled banter. Connor, you go first.
This is going to sound completely crazy.
Win me a few more games before you start dancing. That's all I ask.
That is the difference between being good and being great.
How about that segue right there, baby?
Forward bounce, just get it out of here.
You like that?
And they let the team down on Sunday. Last call.
Good evening. Round two. Welcome to Beyond the Box Score here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Not really. It's snowy out, so it's whether you think it's beautiful or not. Connor Priest here over in Tonawanda, New York. I'm Cole Johnson in Moravia, New York. Finally getting back on it, Connor. We had a couple weeks, a lot of stuff going on. You got one in last week, but here we are back. It's nice.
Yes, sir. Took a little bit of extended time off for the holidays. Hope everyone enjoyed that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the holiday special as well. Getting a couple of fun, diverse individuals while you were away. So, that was a riot. So, kind of upset you missed it, but hope everything is well in the Johnson world now. So,
yeah. So, a lot of stuff going on over the holidays, but football still happened. Have a lot to catch up on, but. It's finally here, Connor. The playoffs, wild card weekend. We have our wild card preview coming up for you guys. And of course, our predictions for these games. We have our bumper bounces, our locks for the weekend, our homer time, and our last call is always the best one. But starting it off, Connor, let's get this rolling. Banter. What do we got today?
So we're just going to start it off. It's not going to be too in depth. It's just something that's been bugging me over the last couple of weeks. So 2 weeks ago, JJ Watt came out and had it was a different side of JJ Watt that we're not used to seeing. He was very animated, very vocal, excuse me, in his post-game press conference after yet another tough loss and something they've been dealing with all year. And basically comes out and says that teammates need to start holding each other accountable. They got to show up and do the work because, the fans are putting in the effort to support them. So they need to put in the effort to be a good football team, put in the effort, off the field, prepare for games and such. But it's not just that. They need to get Deshaun Watson and JJ Watt some help. Houston is just an absolute train wreck right now. And then the video comes out today where we'll show you the soundbite a little bit later where after the loss in week 17, JJ Watt says to Deshaun Watson as they're walking back to the tunnel, "I'm sorry, man," and continue to say that we wasted a year of your career and we should have 11 wins. And to me, that's just heartbreaking because JJ Watt knows exactly firsthand of what that's like. They're both, I would argue 110%, they're both superstars in the NFL, no doubt about it. And, his career hasn't been the greatest from a team standpoint either in Houston. So he knows what it's like when a year's been wasted of what should be, maybe a Hall of Fame career. So, but there's just too many talented individuals on that team for them to continue to lose and blow games late in the fourth quarter. It's not just the defense. The defense needs help tremendously. That defense they are the sole reason why they're losing games essentially because Deshaun Watson has put up ridiculous numbers. He put up career numbers this year. But also if Deshaun Watson wasn't under center, this team would be even more of a train wreck because that offensive line really needs help. And if it was anyone besides Deshaun, I said over and over again throughout the course of the year, even at the beginning of the season, I said that Deshaun Watson is probably going to get killed at some point. But if it wasn't Deshaun Watson under center, someone would definitely have a serious injury because they would just be getting blown up every play because that offensive line is terrible. And because Deshaun Watson is so good at getting away from the pressure, and if he wasn't so mobile, any other quarterback would struggle immensely and would really suffer from the consequences. But they got weapons on the offensive side of the ball. They just need to protect the quarterback and open up lanes for running backs. And sometimes, their football is just ugly to watch sometimes. And Deshaun Watson makes that a little bit more fun sometimes. And, JJ Watt, when he's healthy, he's one of the best defensive linemen in the league. But the terrible part is I don't think Watt will ever leave Houston, in my opinion, because he's loyal. He's a man of character, and the man deserves a ring as bad as Matt Stafford. But it's just it's time to just kind of flip the switch for Houston, get them back on the right track because you are just, like JJ Watt said, you're wasting the years of Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, absolutely. I am right on board with that. And it's you said that Deshaun Watson is one of the superstars in the NFL, and he's let's put it this way, if he's on a better football team, and I've said it. I'm confident in saying that Deshaun Watson could be on the same level, or if not slightly under Patrick Mahomes right now. And I say
110%.
that
Yeah, he's
because,
a top 5 quarterback, 110%. I mean, his talent is unbelievable.
and he's a winner, and to see him have to battle through this it's really tough. And it's a crime because here's a stat that blew my mind. I knew he was up there, but they showed the graphic on Sunday Night Football. He is the league's passing leader. Yards. He had the most passing yards this year with a team that won 4 games. Tell me that's not a crime.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
That is a crime.
they got weapons on the offensive side of the ball too. It's just they have no defense. And again, it's you get the offensive line a little bit more help. I mean, that offense is going to be, probably a top 5 offense in the league. I mean, they already almost are with Deshaun Watson under center. I mean, I don't know.
And
It's just I feel so bad for those two.
yeah,
I feel so bad.
yeah. And just the leader of men in JJ Watt. And for him to say that to him, that's got to mean a lot to Deshaun. And I think the crazy thing about it is, to wrap this up, is that Deshaun Watson also did this in the last few weeks without his number 1 receiver, and Will Fuller. And Will Fuller wasn't himself for the first part of the season. He was injured, and he's had a lot of injuries recur over the last couple of years. And he comes back, and they completely blow up on Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. And we're like, wow, this team can maybe win a few games at the end of the year. And he was still able to do that when Fuller went out with it. He had a PED suspension to miss the rest of the season. And he still is the passing yards leader. So it says a lot about Deshaun Watson. And I think they need to figure that out. And it starts this offseason with finding a coach. So,
Yep. Brandon Cooks benefited immensely from that whole thing with Will Fuller. I saw the stat too. He's, I think, the first player to have over 1,000 yards with 3 different teams or something like that.
yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy though, because I think Brandon Cooks is a great player, but he's kind of been a journeyman, which is funny because he makes an impact on every team he's on.
That is true.
So,
all right, Connor. Now we'll move on to this. Now, Connor, you've played sports your whole life, same as me. And something that everyone's been talking about the last 2 days, and what happened in that Sunday Night Football game with the Eagles and the Washington football team, and what appeared to be an absolute blatant let's lose this game on the part of the Eagles. And so let me start with this. Growing up playing sports, you were told to give everything you have. Give everything you got, never give up. You play until you hear the whistle. You give your best 90 and run out that ground ball down the first baseline. Make a play, get up and move on to the next play. Those are the fundamental principles of playing sports as a kid. You work hard, give your all no matter what the scoreboard says. That's always been a thing, and it still is today. In youth sports, it's the same principles, but it's mixed more with the phrase, it's not all about winning and losing. How many times did you hear that from your parents or a coach after a loss and you're crying and pouting? I would go hours. No one could talk to me after I lost a game when I was a kid. And, it's a good lesson. I mean, it's the idea that winning isn't everything. You can still learn and grow from losing. Things that still hold true, and not just sports, but in a lot of things. As you get older, that narrative shifts a little bit. Sure, the principles stay the same, but it becomes more about winning. You play to win the game. That's it. I didn't spend hours in the summer heat running, bringing the agility ladder out, and training myself to be a quarterback for no reason when I was 16 years old. I wanted to win. I had to shed a lot of weight. I was a lineman my whole life, and focus on an entirely different position because our team desperately needed a quarterback for the next 2 years. I didn't get up for 5 a.m. workouts at the gym several days a week to put up over 500 shots in between classes for no reason. Our basketball team was one of the best teams in New York State for years. We had a goal in mind. We had a standard of winning, and that hard work led to an eventual state title a couple years later. And that was everyone in the culture that was built that won a title for our little hometown. That's the work of high school kids. You buy in, commit to something, give it your best effort on and off the field or the court. While all those things hold true for college and pro levels, here's the kicker. When you get older, you realize sports is a business. That's it. I started to see it when teams were giving contracts to get players for hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, as a kid, you don't see that stuff. Like you don't see that's what it was when you were younger. You just think they're playing a game and making a living off of it. That's why you could go through every elementary school yearbook at any school and you see a common answer. It's what do you want to be category. I want to be a professional sports player. I was the same way. I think 5th grade, I said, I want to be a professional baseball player. Then we find out it's just for a lot of kids, it's not realistic. So yes, sports is a business. It's the largest business in the world. The NFL is the biggest commodity in America. It's ignorant to think NFL is not ran as a business. But there are still some basic principles of sport that should hold true as they do for youth and high school sports. You play hard, you play clean, have pride, and have respect for the game. That's the big one. The Philadelphia Eagles organization crossed all of those off the list, all of those principles on Sunday night. And you can debate this all you want, but you can't tell me that what they pulled on Sunday wasn't a deliberate act to lose a football game. The frustrating thing, Connor, is that the players wanted to win. I think the coaches wanted to win too. We can question Doug Peterson and everything, but the fact of the matter is, this is a business that we call the NFL, but there are guys in suits who throw away those principles to push their own agenda. There's not a doubt in my mind that there was a message sent from the front office from either Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie to have Doug Peterson bench Jalen Hurts in favor of Nate Sudfeld, who has been a third-string quarterback for them for 3 years. If they thought he had something, he would have played before Sunday night. And that was to lose and get a better pick in the draft. And of course, we have people backing up the decision, saying that it's only a spectacle because it was on prime time for all of America to see. If it was a 1 p.m. game, nobody would care. I call BS on that because no matter what time of day this happened, the fact of the matter is the Eagles were down 3 points in the fourth quarter, 3 points, and it would have been a tie game if they kicked a field goal. That's the other thing. They were down 3, and at a 4th and goal, kick a field goal. It's a tie game going into the fourth quarter. But still, you're down 3, and you bench the quarterback who you replaced in replace of your franchise quarterback. And you replace him in a fourth quarter situation that could very well help him move into next year. Why not build some momentum in the next year? Give the guys some pride and joy, ending the year on a win that's been a horrible year for them. Instead, you piss off 53 other guys, not including the inactive players for the game who weren't there, and finish off the season with the win. And I'm not even going to get into the whole Giants missing the playoff thing. That honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was the Giants, if it was the Cowboys, if it was anybody. That doesn't matter. The Eagles don't owe the Giants anything. They don't owe them to win that game so the Giants get in. The Giants had 16 games to put themselves in a better situation to win. It's even a miracle that they had 6 wins this season. This has nothing to do with the Giants. I've publicly expressed how I'm not a fan of tanking method. I didn't like what the Jets were doing this year. And hey, they pulled 2 wins out of their hat at the end of the year because the players wanted to win. They don't want to give up on Sam Darnold yet. I think you play your heart out and you give yourself a chance to win a football game each and every Sunday. You play your heart out. You let the cards fall the right way. If you play hard, only win a couple games, you still get a good pick. I'm all for that. But you have those principles of sport. And it's only fair to everyone who wants to compete. Football is a chance to compete and not worry about what's going on in the real world for 3 hours on a Sunday. And at least the bottom teams are looking for a top quarterback in the draft. The Jets, the Jags, you name it. Several teams are looking for a quarterback. What are the Eagles looking for? You're looking to drop from the 9th pick to the 6th pick. What is the difference? It's still a top 10 pick in the draft. You already decided on your next quarterback. Why else would you draft a guy in the 2nd round and then replace him with a guy you're paying $128 million for? That you're going to have to eat in dead cap space over the next few years just to trade him away. You gave up your franchise quarterback in a crazy year with a depleted roster for Jalen Hurts, and then you bench him for no reason in a fourth quarter of a game that you could have won to finish your season, and you do it to blatantly lose a football game. To me, the Eagles organization have completely utterly disrespected the game of football in a year where every player and their families had to sacrifice so much just to get the season played. And you do it on national television in week 17. If the Eagles so badly were willing to lose that game and piss all their players and fans off, you better hope that 6th pick in the NFL draft is worlds better than that what you would have had at number 9. And that's it.
Yeah, and the thing is that what really bothered me the most was all this drama that we've done numerous shows about. We've had multiple people on to talk about it, fans of the Eagles, where they didn't necessarily support the decision to bench Carson Wentz. Or some of them did, some of them didn't. We've seen so many mixed reviews about it. But if you're, and you already touched on it, but if you make the call to bench what you basically already had as a franchise quarterback, even though he's having a down year, and you weren't winning football games with him, if you're going to make the decision to bench a guy that you are paying millions and millions and millions of dollars for a rookie that you drafted last year, you sure as hell better stick with him. Because all that's doing is you are giving him reps. You are preparing him for next year so you can win. And then to do that and pull him in the last game of the season, it makes zero sense to me. And to me, it causes even more of a dramatic situation in Philadelphia. And now we're getting reports that come out today saying that Carson Wentz isn't necessarily looking for a trade. He's saying that he doesn't necessarily want it was a quote unquote, he said he doesn't necessarily want a divorce with Philadelphia. So like, what the hell is it going to be? The three-headed monster of Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, and Nate Sudfeld now, because apparently they like Sudfeld under center now. Like, it just adds so much that it's not good for the locker room. It's not good for the organization. It's not good for the fans. It's not good for anyone involved. And to think that if it was Doug Peterson's call that they're going to bring him back, I think no matter what, Doug Peterson should not be back as Philly's head coach at all. And it's just they need this whole situation to just be fixed. I thought they pulled the trigger too soon on Jalen Hurts. And then they pulled the trigger too soon, I guess, on Sudfeld. Because I honestly have no idea what the hell that was besides throwing a football game.
Yeah. And that's the thing that's absurd to me, is to give up on your franchise quarterback in favor of someone else and then bench him.
And then give up on them
in the final 17. Game of the season.
Yeah.
It's just you lose the locker room. Reports saying that there's guys who try to confront Doug Peterson after the game. There's guys that had to be held back because they're angry. These players want to win, and that's the frustrating thing. If other organizations followed suit, it would be a mess of a league. At least there's teams that put their pride first and decide to go out and actually win games, and that has helped them in the coming years. And you've seen it with Miami. Miami was a win away from making the playoffs this year. Last year, they were one of the worst teams in the league. They built a culture. They didn't tank.
Yeah.
Could be happening with the Giants.
And another argument that I've heard is like, maybe it was a good thing that happened, because especially for the Giants, because maybe they're going to be in a better position to win. But no, like, that playoff experience matters. And also, you never know what happens when you get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, look when they won the Super Bowl against the Patriots.
Yeah.
And that was one of the arguments that I heard, and I didn't necessarily want to dismiss it, because yes, it makes sense. You're going to get a better pick, but at the same time, like, for a young guy like Daniel Jones, who desperately needs experience whenever he can get it, that playoff experience matters 110%.
Absolutely. Yep. Just craziness. Philly's got to figure it out. They're going to make everybody mad. I can't wait to see. We'll show you in a minute what Joe Judge had to say to that. And I think that's going to send some sparks flying in that, more of a rivalry in the NFCs for next year. But Let's go to the top headlines of the week. So, Connor, Black Monday was yesterday. Every year you got coaches getting fired. There was 3 previously, but we had 3 new fires on Monday after week 17, bringing the total to 6 head coach vacancies. Adam Gase in New York, as expected. Doug Marrone out of Jacksonville, and Anthony Lynn out of LA. Bill O'Brien, Dan Quinn, and Matt Patricia were all fired during the season, so that leaves 6. Rumors have swirled of Urban Meyer taking over in Jacksonville, coming out of retirement, shifting from college to the NFL. You have rumors of Jason Garrett going to either the Chargers or Jacksonville as well. We'll get into that in a moment. Number 2, Cleveland makes the playoffs for the first time since 2002, but it comes with a sacrifice. Head coach Kevin Stefanski, along with multiple other coaches and their Pro Bowl guard Joe Bitonio, out on Sunday due to COVID-19. They have an outbreak. It's already been decided they will not be playing. So special teams coach Mike Prefer, if that's how you say it, will serve as the acting head coach. Not good things in Cleveland. Number 3, Green Bay locks in the number 1 seed in the NFC, beating Chicago 35-16, but Chicago still sneaks into the playoffs at 8-8 as the number 7 seed because of the Arizona loss. Number 4, Buffalo pours it on Miami, scoring 56 points with their backups in. I'm sure Connor will get into that in a little bit. And Miami misses the shot at the playoffs. They were a win-and-in situation that could not get it done. They also needed Indianapolis to lose, and that did not happen. And then finally, 2020 NFC East saga ends in controversy. We just talked about it. The New York Giants did their part. They beat the Cowboys 23-19, and they had to wait for the outcome on Sunday Night Football, and were very disappointed. It was a win-in for Washington. The Eagles trying to play spoiler, but Doug Peterson replaces Jalen Hurts with Nate Sudfeld in the fourth quarter in a 17-14 game. Washington wins 2014 to clinch the NFC East crown. So, Connor, these headlines heading into wild card weekend, what are you thinking about these 6 head coaching vacancies?
I mean, a lot of them, they're pretty much expected. Bill O'Brien, terrible season with Houston. Dan Quinn, again, just to me, Atlanta's just a weird team. Because, I mean, they did have a couple games where they look competitive. I mean, they're competitive with the Chiefs. They're competitive with New Orleans. But they're just a team that didn't get it done this year with Dan Quinn. Matt Patricia, I think, to me, was probably a little bit more of the shocker. But the ones that happened on Black Monday, they're all expected. I mean, especially Adam Gase, Doug Marrone. I think the only one that maybe would be a little bit more have shock value would be Anthony Lynn. But we saw how bad he was at managing the clock, how bad he was at managing a game. He's a great dude, but he just wasn't fit to run that team. And they have a bunch of talent. So whoever, I mean, I honestly would think that's probably the more attractive job right now than Jacksonville, even though they have the number 1 overall pick. I think the Chargers are in a position where they can easily win now, where I would say the Jets and the Jaguars probably a couple years away. Houston, I would say, probably could be close to winning now as well, but I mean, they still need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball, like we already talked about. But Cleveland, oh man, I'm telling you, I feel for them because I know what they've been through. I know what it's all about. You finally make the playoffs after snapping the longest active drought.
Yep.
And boom, your head coach comes down with COVID. I'm sorry, but it is the most Browns thing to happen to the Browns. And I mean, I hope Stefanski gets good because I like him as a head coach. He's done wonders in Cleveland, but it's just the most, unfortunate thing to happen.
Yeah, it really is. Poor Cleveland. I mean, they'll have a statement to make. If they want to move on to the divisional, though. Maybe they'll add some fuel to the fire, but things will be tough without their head coach.
For sure.
Green Bay locking in the 1 seed, Connor. Are they the team to beat in the NFC? They're the number 1, but it doesn't always mean it.
110%. They're the team that's playing the most consistent football in the NFC right now. They're the most dominant team in the NFC. I mean, unless a miracle. I see them going all the way to the Super Bowl. So taking down Chicago 35-16. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll get another, maybe a rematch in the playoffs.
That'll be interesting. Long-time rivalry. And then 4, you'll get into it later, but Buffalo poured on. Miami misses the shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Miami here. So, because I'll talk about the Bills a little bit later, but I mean, Miami is seriously that close. All right, their defense played lights out all season. And of course, the one game where it really, 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 they really needed their defense to step up, they fell flat on their face. And I don't know if that's necessarily Miami's fault, or if it's that Buffalo game plan so good to face Miami. Because I don't know if you watched that game, but early in the game, they touched on how the Dolphins they're always motioning guys in coverage to kind of confuse reads and making quarterbacks have to change reads basically into what their coverage is trying to game plan against. And that's why their defense kind of it's been tricky all year. But then Buffalo started going no huddle, and they started going quick on the count. And then that's when they started finding success. And then from there, the floodgates just opened up, and then the backups came in, and that I don't have an answer for. I don't have an answer for how the backups helped put up a 50 burger. I have zero clue. But when the starters were in, I understood that. But they just had a bad day. But I know it's early, and I know it was his first year. But Tua, man, I mean, I know he threw for over 300, but he's just I don't know. He just didn't look like he was it. Again, I think they probably would have had a better chance with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah,
and I will die on this hill because I thought that they pulled the trigger too soon on taking out Fitz. But I know Fitz wasn't eligible to play because of COVID. But it's tough because also, I mean, I would have loved the 2 seed. Pittsburgh lost regardless. But if Miami was going to get in, I would have wanted it to be because of Fitz. And because everybody in Buffalo still loves Fitz. But if Tua can figure it out, I think they'll be a dangerous team. And it's going to be the Bills and the Dolphins in the AFC East. I mean, I don't want to count out the Patriots, but I mean, we could see a 2 or 3 horse race until the Jets figure it out. And it's going to be exciting because we've been seeing nothing but the Patriots for the last couple of years. And now it could truly be a 3 horse race instead of just a 1.
Yep. Last couple. Tried 2 decades.
Last 2 decades.
Yeah. And then obviously 2020 NFC East saga ending in controversy. A lot of people fired up about that. We just talked about it. But Washington, I mean, I'm not going to – I think that everyone has been focusing solely on the Eagles blowing that game and the Giants not making the playoffs. No one's talking about Washington and how this team wins the division, makes the playoffs in their first year after, all the controversy surrounding losing their name, the Redskins, and going to the Washington football team. You have your head coach, Ron Rivera, battling cancer, and you have Alex Smith step on the field and become your starting quarterback, leading you to the playoffs after having what 90% of the time would be a career-ending injury.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, and I was kind of pulling for you because I wanted to see, because I wanted your misery to kind of be over with and kind of see you be, just a little glimmer of hope for the future. But you couldn't write a better story for Alex Smith. I mean, we all know what he went through, and we've all been kind of pulling for him all year. And it's just an outstanding, it's not the end, but it's an outstanding, another chapter that's written in the story of Alex Smith. So I couldn't be happier for him. Great dude. So, I mean, Washington, we're going to get into it later, but I mean, they could easily be, not easily, but they could be one of those teams that might come up and sneak up on you in the playoffs. Because that defense is legit.
Yep. Those front 4 are some dudes up there. They are for sure.
For sure.
And that's what wins games in the NFL. You get pressure on the quarterback, make plays. That's what's going to help. So anything can happen. We'll get to the wild card preview in just a moment. But first, Connor, we got our Sunday sound bites. A lot of things were said this weekend, whether it was running off the field after the game or someone in a press conference the following day. And we'll start with this one. Just bouncing off of that, the way the NFC East ended and the Washington making the playoffs, the Eagles with getting blown up by everyone in each direction about blatantly losing that football game. New York Giants head football coach Joe Judge answered to that here in his press conference, mentioning about how he will never be doing that. And as the Giants football coach, take a listen to what Joe Judge had to say here.
There's a number of sacrifices been made by all the players and coaches in this league. There's a number of sacrifices that come along as well with the family members of the people connected to them. To disrespect the effort that everyone put forward to make this season a success for the National Football League, to disrespect the game by going out there and not competing for 60 minutes and doing everything you can to help those players win. We will never do that as long as I'm the head coach of the New York Giants.
I think Joe Judge said it all there. And before he got to that point, he mentioned about how this year was a year where players opted into play. They didn't. You had players opt out because of the circumstances, but all the sacrifices all these players and their families had to make. He mentioned, not having people over for Thanksgiving. If it's your wife's birthday, try to celebrate it in the off season. And, getting texts at 6:30 in the morning saying practice is canceled. We're going virtual today. He's like, all of that was players buying in, opting in this season. And for it to end like that, for the Eagles and other teams to watch what the Eagles did on Sunday, he's saying that's something that, and what he just said there, it's something he's never going to do as a New York Giants football coach.
Yeah. And I love it. I mean, he addresses it in a way where, he's kind of stating what his morals and his beliefs are, but he's not really crossing the line. And to me, I think this was the proper response of how to handle it. Not only is it a message to the Eagles, but it's also a message to his locker room where he's firmly standing behind his guys. He's showing his kind of disgust with what happened. And he's backing up, the players in that locker room. And I think that's exactly what you need in a leader, for a head coach on a football team. And I love it 110%. And
I think something else it is too, Connor, is when a coach comes out and says something like that publicly, I think you also have to look at it as it's kind of him advertising the Giants to all these free agents, guys who are on the trading block. It's like, come here to New York, and that's not going to happen. That's another thing. I didn't really think about that until today. I don't know what you think about that, but that's kind of like a recruiting kind of statement there when you come out and say those kind of things. I think I kind of see a little bit of the same culture and mindset in Joe Judge that Sean McDermott has kind of brought to Buffalo, and look what that did. Look who it brought to Buffalo. And so, no, definitely, I agree with that 110% too, because I mean, guys want to play for a coach who is going to get the most out of you and who's going to do nothing but try and develop not only individually but to strive to be winners. And that's exactly what he did in that statement. So I mean, I'd play for him. I'd play for him in a heartbeat. I absolutely would too. All right, on to the next one. So after that Sunday Night Football win for Washington, punching their ticket to the playoffs, that made Washington become the 4th seed, hosting the 5th seeded wild card team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And running off the field after the win, Chase Young, the rookie, the stud from Ohio State, saying, "Here we come. I want Tom Brady." And of course, that's going to bring some stir around the league. And here is what head coach Bruce Arians of Tampa Bay had to say in response to that.
He's a hell of a player. Obviously, making him a captain as a rookie speaks volumes. And both those kids from Ohio State, he and McLaren are great kids. And but yeah, he's a handful. But so is Sweat, Payne, the rest of those guys. Ryan Kerrigan, I've had a ton of respect for a long time. So yeah, we'll have our hands full. But that it's one of those games where you better watch what you wish for.
So there's Bruce Arians. Better watch what you wish for. It's basically like you better be ready when you come host us on Sunday. I don't know. Do you like that? Do you not? I like it because I think both of them were kind of in good fun. I don't think either of them were like super serious. I don't know. Whenever I hear Bruce Arians talk, unless he's yelling, I can't really take him seriously. He's just like this old school, like it reminds me of almost like an art teacher, especially with the hat that he's wearing. So he just seems like one of those really like cool, chill, laid back dudes where like everything comes out of his mouth isn't necessarily serious. I don't know, but I think it's all in good fun. I like the competitive nature of it, but I also like that they're both kind of, having fun because Chase Young, he's a rookie. He's just having fun. So it just seems like it's like, it's just two grown men having fun in the spirit of competition. So I don't have a problem with it. I love it. I love stuff like that. So. Yeah, I love it too. I love that Chase Young wants the challenge to face the greatest quarterback Well, Tom, you love to see that out of your guys that you draft number 2. So here's the last one. Connor already discussed it in his opening segment. J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson walking off the field together after their Week 17 loss against Tennessee. So let's take you there.
I'm sorry. We wasted one of your years. I'm sorry. You should have 11 wins.
It's courtesy of Inside the NFL. So you already talked about it, Connor. That just
It breaks my heart.
It
Bro,
breaks your heart.
it breaks my heart.
It breaks your heart, but you love to see the leader that J.J. Watt is and the respect he has towards his quarterback. So you love to see that. Those are your Sunday sound bites. Those are fun. We could do those more often. And let's jump into this, Connor. Wild card weekend. Let's start in the AFC. And it's, you'll get more into Buffalo later, but the first one on the slate here, Indianapolis at Buffalo. Indy just coming up short of that AFC South title. They needed Tennessee to lose in order to crown themselves and get themselves a home game in the wild card round. But now they got to take a trip to probably the most dangerous team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I mean, to me, when everything was going on Sunday, everyone's asking, well, who'd you rather face? Who'd you rather face? To me, it's like every team's gonna have their strengths and their weaknesses. But right now, the way that Buffalo's been playing, I mean, I wasn't necessarily concerned, and I don't think Buffalo should be concerned to face anybody right now. I mean, obviously, with the exception of maybe the Chiefs, and then whoever you get in the Super Bowl, if you get there. But to me, the main concern, it shouldn't be Phillip Rivers. It shouldn't be the Indy's defense. It shouldn't be T.Y. Hilton. Their main concern should be Jonathan Taylor. And to me, that is obvious. A lot of people think that maybe they should be afraid of Phillip Rivers and, the way that he throws the short game and they can maybe flip you and go upfield. But the Bills secondary can stop Rivers. He's not as effective at throwing the ball downfield as he was. And the Bills did an excellent job of shutting down short routes versus Pittsburgh. And to me, they kind of run a little bit of the same offense, but not as heavy with the short pass game. But Jonathan Taylor was the second best running back in the second half of the season behind Derrick Henry. And the Bills had a little bit of trouble stopping the run earlier in the year. And then even sometimes a little bit later in the year as well, they kind of had their struggles with the run, but stop the run, move on in the AFC divisional. Indy just needs to get pressure on Josh. I mean, their defense was fantastic to start the year, and they saw a little bit of drop off in production in the back end. But Allen is great compared to others under pressure, but that's also when he will make mistakes. And I think the game is just going to be won on who can protect the football better.
Yeah, and we've talked about it time and time again. Buffalo, their defense hasn't been as stellar as it has in years past, but they come up with timely stops and timely turnovers. They're very good situationally. They get turnovers in the fourth quarter when they need them, and that might be the difference here. It could be a one-score game with a turnover in the fourth quarter. And I think if you do keep an eye on Jonathan Taylor, they love to throw the ball to Jonathan Taylor, Nakeem Hines out of the backfield. If you have someone spying on them the whole time and take that away, you're going to have to make Phillip Rivers throw the ball down the football field. And like you said, that arm is not like it was a few years ago. So I think that's the main thing there. I think Buffalo, controls it. Indy's going to stick around, and it's going to come down to a fourth down stop, maybe a turnover in the fourth quarter. So I have Buffalo in this one, Connor. I can imagine what you got, but let's hear it.
I got Buffalo, Cole. Come on now.
Okay. Well, sometimes you got to go with your heart, not your head, but I think, it should be a Buffalo.
Going with both.
Again.
Going with the heart and going with my heart and my head.
Both. That's okay too. I just hope it works out. All right. Next game in the AFC, Baltimore at Tennessee, a rematch of a game earlier in the year that went to overtime, and Tennessee won on a Derrick Henry broke out a touchdown run to win it. So what are you thinking looking at this game? Very, very intriguing matchup.
I mean, with the way that both of these teams have been playing recently too, it's going to be Lamar versus Henry, who can run the ball better. And I will say, I've been highly critical of Lamar Jackson this year. In fact, even before the year, but Lamar had a very solid day passing last week. The stats might not have showed, but he looked sharp throwing the ball downfield, and I was impressed. He'll always have his legs, but I mean, the passing matters. This is a passing league. Then obviously, if you're Baltimore, Henry just needs to be stopped. I mean, that's just stating the obvious. But to me, I know Baltimore's got heart. I know that anything can happen with Lamar Jackson under center, but this game could be over by half if Tennessee goes up by 2 scores. And I've been saying that all year. Once Tennessee gets up, Derrick Henry is just going to milk the clock away. So I'll go first here. I'm taking Tennessee.
Okay. All right. Let's take it Tennessee on the road. No, it's in Tennessee. Excuse me.
It's in
They won the
Tennessee. Yep.
division. I got the team on the road here. I got Baltimore. What Baltimore has done in this second half of the season after their COVID outbreak, and they had to play that Wednesday afternoon game against Pittsburgh, and it was one of the worst football games you could ever watch, and everyone was counting Baltimore out. They turned it around, and they showed you why, they were the best team at times last year. And they've showed that in the last few weeks. I mean, they go out by winning their last 5 games. They're 6-5. They win the final 5 in pretty dominant fashion. They scored 40. They scored over 34 points 4 of those 5 times. So this is an offense that's clicking. The way they can run the football, if Tennessee can't stop the run, it's gonna be a lot. They just broke 400-yard rushing on Sunday. So that's going to be the main concern on both defenses, is going to be that run game. And if Lamar can sling it downfield, that's going to be dangerous. I just got to go with the team that's hotter right now. They're both playing well, but I think Baltimore is playing better, and I think they win this one and move on to the divisional round.
I think this one also has all the makings for a shootout as well. And also, you never know. With the way that Corey Davis and A.J. Brown have their season they've been having this year, they could completely flip the switch on Baltimore, and they could just pass, and just use Derrick Henry whenever they need him. Because don't sleep on Ryan Tannehill either. I mean, he can throw the ball when he needs to, but Corey Davis and A.J. Brown, I mean, they're 2 terrific wide receivers, and they'll go out and make plays for him. Yeah. So I think that Baltimore can't necessarily stop Corey Davis, A.J. Brown, and Derrick Henry, especially in the playoffs.
Yep. It's going to be a fun one. I think out of the AFC games, I think that one's going to be the best in terms of a possible shootout, as you just mentioned. So, and it's a rematch earlier in the year. That'll be fun. Next one. This is another rematch. This is a 3rd time this season and 2 weeks in a row. It just happened to fall this way. Cleveland at Pittsburgh. Cleveland just beat Pittsburgh barely by stopping a 2-point conversion from Pittsburgh, while Pittsburgh had 4 of their best players. Big Ben didn't play. Cleveland just snuck by, and now they got a COVID outbreak heading into the wild card game.
I think personally, I'm just going to come out and say it right now. I think Cleveland's going to win. And because I think this has all the makings for a big middle finger statement by Baker Mayfield. The dude plays with a chip on his shoulder. He loves the spotlight of being doubted, even though the coaching staff is out with COVID, even though it's a Browns thing that happened, like I mentioned. I think it'll be a close game, but I think this is going to be one where Baker Mayfield is really just going to, like I said, just give a middle finger to everyone that doubted him. And this is going to be that big statement win for him. I think it's going to be close because, I mean, they snuck by Pittsburgh in week 17. So that's it's a little skeptical for me to pick the Browns, but I like Cleveland right now a lot more than the Steelers.
Okay. Bold pick. You're going all out on the Steelers right now. This I can't. I understand, Connor. Isn't it crazy though? This team was 11-0. They finished the year 1-4, and now you're picking them to lose in the wild card round. Talk about a complete.
I didn't like them when they were 11-0.
I know you didn't. I didn't either. But I'm saying, talk about if they do lose to Cleveland on Sunday or whatever day they play. Talk about a complete and utter just. I don't even know what you call that.
Disaster.
Like an avalanche, like what?
An absolute phony of a on paper Warrior football team.
Okay. All right. And as much as I agree with you in Pittsburgh being nowhere near the level of what you would see an 11-0 football team be, and we saw it in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I still got to take Pittsburgh in this one. They're going to be healthy, rested. Cleveland just beat them a week earlier. I can't see Cleveland beating Pittsburgh for a second week in a row. especially on this stage with no head coach. It honestly, it would be kind of cool to see Cleveland come through with this, but I don't think cool is going to win them this week. So that's what I got. Hey, we have two differences so far. I like it. Can't agree on everything. All right, NFC, Connor. This is also another in-division game, so this will be the third time that the Rams and Seahawks are playing each other. This is going to be interesting. I think Seattle took care of it. They split this season. So Rams took care of business the first time around. Seattle won the second time around. Who do you got in this one?
I got the Rams, but look at before like week 8, this playoff matchup looked phenomenal on paper. But back half of the year, I mean, the Rams got real hot in the middle of the year. And then Seattle's just been Yep. Like they're the second worst 12-14 in football. Next to the Steelers. So I mean, this has all the makings for another low-scoring affair and just a battle of the defenses. But I'm taking the Rams here.
I'm also taking the Rams. It might bite me because I have had confidence in the Rams several different times this season, and then they completely proved me wrong. They have been very inconsistent at times. We've talked about their inconsistency and Jared Goff's inconsistency. But the fact that they just won a football game this weekend with John Wolford at quarterback, and he actually looked pretty good. This is a team that can very well make a run to the Super Bowl again, and I've talked about it. They have basically the same exact team they had 2 years ago when they made it to the Super Bowl, minus Todd Gurley, but they have replaced him with a couple other running backs and a young stud in Cam Akers. They can run the football, and Jared Goff is comfortable, can make plays. The Rams should win this football game because Seattle cannot score of late. They just can't. They have not been able to score. They rely far too much on Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson doesn't go out and make some crazy plays, they're not going to win this game. So I'm all in on the Rams for this one. I don't know if it's going to take them any further, which is really interesting. I think both of us could agree that if these two played like 5 or 6 weeks ago, one of these two teams would be on their way to the Super Bowl. But at this point, I'm out on that. So I got the Rams too. Tampa Bay at Washington. This is interesting. Tom Brady in January. Everyone all year long has thought Tom Brady was so bad. But the fact of the matter is he actually had a very, very one of his best seasons. He had one of his best seasons in the last 3 years. He looks good. The last couple weeks has been very good. This team could be dangerous. Antonio Brown is catching on. And they're playing a Washington team that won 7 games. And I know anything can happen in the playoffs, but Tampa Bay's scary right now because the fact of the matter is Tom Brady is playing in the playoffs again. So I got Tampa Bay. Connor, what do you think? Can Washington can the magic spread from winning the division, and can it leak into the playoffs, or does the NFC East stop here?
I know I was kind of hyping them up early, but listen, Tampa got hot at the right time. We always say that the team that ends the season the hottest is the most dangerous in the playoffs, but to me, it should be a lock for a win, but anything can happen in the playoffs. Washington is a weird team with a solid defense. I do think that they could limit the damage that Tom Brady and company can do with Washington on the defense side of the ball, but I don't think the offense can get it done against Tampa Bay. But again, anything can happen, but I am taking Tampa.
Yep. They finished the year with 4 wins, the last 2 complete blowouts over Detroit and Atlanta. And Tom Brady still threw for 4,600 yards and 40 touchdowns. He knows how to play in the postseason. He's been there more than anybody. And you have a veteran head coach in Bruce Arians. And you got a lot of weapons and a young defense who can come up with plays when they need to. The only thing, Connor, that I thought about was how interesting would it have been if the Giants got in? Who's the only team? It's like the team kryptonite against Tom Brady, the New York Giants, but also the Eagles beat them once. So maybe it's the NFC East. Maybe Washington can step into that role and join.
NFC East could be Tom Brady's kryptonite.
It's a thing. That's what I like. I'm
No
not.
way.
It would be something. What a storyline that would be. Could the third NFC East team be the only teams that just take out Tom Brady? We'll see. Stay tuned, everyone. But we both got Tampa Bay in this one, playing great football. Last one in the NFC. I don't know how Chicago made the playoffs. After they started losing a bunch of games in a row, I was out on them mid-season. I was like, Chicago's – I don't know how they made it. They lost 6 games. How do you lose 6 games in a row and still make the playoffs? Unbelievable. But they played well at the end of the year. I mean, give credit. Mitch Trubisky stepped back in and he had a couple of very good football games. He kind of made me eat my words because I've been out on Mitch for 3 years now. But they make it 3 straight wins. They did lose to Green Bay, but got some help with the Arizona loss. So they're in. New Orleans just won a game by 26 when they had no active running backs on the field. Drew Brees looked pretty good. What do you think, Connor?
I think that Mitch Trubisky and David Montgomery and the rest of the Chicago Bears are playing very, very good football right now. New Orleans is known for having early struggles in the playoffs. And I think this has all the makings for a grade A beefy upset. I'm taking Chicago because I think that this is just going to be one of those weird playoff games that we have every single year where it's like, what the hell just happened? I believe Alvin Kamara is still questionable to play because of COVID. I'm not sure if he's going to be cleared or not. But this is much more of an intriguing matchup than what a lot of people would think looking at it on paper. So, and it also depends on what Drew Brees we get, because he could throw for 300 or he could go, like we saw in that first game back, he could open up like 0 for 11. So yep. I'm taking Chicago. This is going to be my gutsy roll the dice pick of the week.
I do have to agree with you, Connor, in the fact that if there's going to be an upset this weekend, I would not be shocked if that was the one. So I can agree with you on that one. So that's why I'm not all in on this pick, but I'm going with the Saints solely based on the fact that it's Sean Payton and he's been there many of times. He knows how this works and he has Drew Brees. And as long as Drew Brees is healthy and he can sling the football around, and if Alvin Kamara plays, I just don't see Chicago getting enough stops defensively to keep up with New Orleans. They don't have an offense that's going to be able to keep up with New Orleans in a shootout. If they can shut down New Orleans offense, very well they could win this football game. But if they're not going to be able to keep up in a shootout. And I think you're going to see New Orleans put up 20, 30 points. And Chicago is not going to be able to stick with them. So I got New Orleans, but I will agree with you, Connor, that if there is going to be an upset this weekend, it will be that game. So that'll be interesting. But if they do win, then they're taking a trip over to Green Bay again for a divisional matchup, and that might get ugly. But I mean, hey, it would make things fun in the NFL playoffs. So, all right, well, those are our picks. Now, so we made our picks. Now we're gonna shift to our bumper bounce, Connor. You get one team that you're locking in for an absolute 100% they're going to win, and a bounce on one team that you think is definitely going to go home this weekend. Who do you got?
I'm bumping the Buffalo Bills. Again, this is a heart and head decision. But, I mean, after coming with complete dominance over one of the best defenses in the NFL, and then especially using backups, it just shows that the staff can game plan on the offensive side for just about anybody and execute to perfection. I mean, they ended up with a 50 spot. I do think it is going to be an absolute battle, but they're going to win. I mean, I'm hoping, but I think they come out with a win and they move on to the divisional round. It's just going to be a battle, and it's going to be a tough day on the blood pressure and the heart for me on Saturday. So, but I'm locking in the Buffalo Bills.
At least you'll get used to it, because if they make a road to the Super Bowl, you're going to have 4 weeks of that.
I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
4 weeks of high blood pressure doesn't sound very healthy, but I think you'll get through it. All right, who are you bouncing?
I am bouncing the Seattle Seahawks, mainly because what in the world happened to the offense? We already talked about it. Russ is not cooking. The stove is off. Their offense is the only thing that's really keeping them alive right now. And I think it's just hilarious because, same thing with the Steelers. Like, they won their division. It's like you look at this football team and it's like, how? Their offense is like non-existent right now. And I just think they're in big trouble heading into the playoffs. And so I'm bouncing the Seattle Seahawks, which is funny because I was also going to throw in here of when I was bumping the first like 2 or 3 episodes of our show that Russell Wilson was my MVP. And now it's like, where'd he go?
Yeah, the MVP status kind of shrunk in the second half of the season. Not entirely his fault either. It's just he had to do a lot for Seattle those first few weeks that put him in the conversation. But that being said, I got my bump as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We just talked about it, Connor. Ending the season on a 4-game winning streak, 2 blowouts to end it. Tom Brady's finally found that connection with Antonio Brown. I think, it took a little bit for Brown to jump in there and figure things out. It might be concerning. Mike Evans he had a injury on Sunday. He limped, non-contact injury, and those are never good. So we're not sure what his status is, but I think they have enough weapons to move around that. It's not like Mike Evans is a Devontae Adams of Green Bay. Like, they have other weapons. And simply it's Tom Brady in January. That might be all that they need, as crazy as that sounds, especially against a 7-win team in Washington who just snuck into the postseason from a bad division. Not a good matchup. I think Tampa Bay rolls them. And I'm bouncing Cleveland. You have them winning this game, but I don't see a situation in where Cleveland's going to beat Pittsburgh in back-to-back weeks and win their first playoff game since the 90s. They have no head coach. There's no fluidity there. You can't have a head coach for 17 weeks, get to the playoffs with them, and then things are just going to be the same in a wild card game where the pressure's on, where it's more intense. You're playing a division rival for the 3rd time. They're riding high off of making the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. They barely beat a Pittsburgh team without 4 of their best players this past Sunday. They're without a Pro Bowl right guard, Joe Bitonio. That's huge. That could have an impact on the running game, which they lean on and which Baker Mayfield needs to excel. They need to have the run game. So, Mayfield's going to have a lot on his shoulders. And at this point, I'm not sure if he's ready for that yet. He's not quite there. And you have a rested Pittsburgh team who's out to prove something. They finished the year 1-4. Everyone is out on them. No one considers them a Super Bowl contender right now. They have a lot to prove by going out and beating Cleveland. And, I just think the playoffs are too much for Cleveland right now. Look at Buffalo. Connor, sorry, but first time Buffalo made the playoffs in 2017 for the first time in 18 years. They go out and score 3 points. It was too much for them at that time. Give them a couple years and, this ship could sail further for Cleveland. But right now is not the time. I'm not saying Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl, but I think they can get through this win and see what happens. So there's my bumper bounce. You know what time it is?
Homer time.
It's Homer time. So I'm going to lead this in for you. Everybody, if you haven't seen yet, there was an article put out by the Bills today, and it was a letter to Bills Mafia Part 2 from their own offensive lineman, Deion Dawkins. A lot of good stuff in there. Probably something that's pumping through Connor's veins right now. So I'm going to let him talk about it, but go look at it if you haven't seen it yet. The Bills tweeted it out earlier today. I'll tell you what stood out to me when you finish up. So what do you got?
Yeah, I love this platform. I did something in college almost like this as well. The Players Tribune, just not even about the Bills, just the Players Tribune as a whole. It's incredible. For those of you who don't know, the Players Tribune is basically athletes or people in sports just writing things, like documenting stuff that happened at a game, at an event, or just a whole thing. Like Deion Dawkins writing a letter to the fans. It's all authentic. It's not fabricated in any way. So it's really just that individual speaking to the reader. And it's super, super cool. He went super in depth. He talked about like the 9 things that he wanted to talk about, going from, what happened in the past to past players, to Josh Allen, to Stephon Diggs, to what it's like being in the locker room, to, the fans, the city of Buffalo. It was just flawless. It was unbelievable. All the chills too. It was fantastic. So definitely, if you're going to read one thing today or one thing this week, go read that. It's on the Players Tribune by Deion Dawkins, the Snowman, what they call him in Buffalo. But anyway, so Homer Time. I'm keeping this really, really simple, actually. I don't really want to talk too much about this past week because we're looking forward, and we got James and I. When you surprised me, you got him on the show, and he said that if you don't win a playoff game this year, it's a big the season's been a loss. But to me, I am in the mindset, and I think this team is also in the mindset, that it is Super Bowl or bust. It is a much different mindset than a few weeks ago, and it doesn't matter if they win a game this time, right? It matters if you go all the way. Now, that would be absolutely incredible. But the reason why I'm saying that is because this team has been playing Super Bowl caliber football, and anything less than a ring to me, I think would be a loss. And that is definitely the same exact mentality that they probably have. From top to bottom, this team is built for a ring. They're playing their best football to close the season. It's time. Josh Allen deserves plenty of MVP votes. If you don't see that, then you need to do some research. Beat the Colts and move on. That is all I have to say.
Week by week. Love
Week
it.
by week.
Win and survive.
Yes, sir.
I'm very interested. I'm also interested in this game too, Connor, because as you know, I like to watch Colin Cowherd, and him and Nick Wright have a deal.
Yep.
Where
we talked about this on our Christmas special.
If the Bills don't win a playoff game, Colin gets the mustard and the ketchup in the face like they do at Bills tailgates on live television. If they win more than one playoff game, it happens to Nick Wright. So that's going to be very interesting. As much as I'd love to see that happen to Colin, I want to see the Bills win too. So anyway, so for my and what I wanted to say about that article from Deion Dawkins too, I know you talked about it on Twitter, is how real it was, and him just speaking like he speaks in real life. One thing I wanted to mention about that was, one thing that stood out to me was how he said the 2 reasons why Josh Allen is the MVP. And it was 2 things that you would not think. It was losing the game and the Hail Mary to Arizona, and his personal foul, unsportsmanlike conduct against the Chargers. And it's like stuff like that's the real stuff in the locker room that builds trust of guys. That's what makes you want him to be your quarterback and be your MVP, not just your MVP, but the league's MVP, is that they took a minute and watched Arizona celebrate, and they turned the page and said, we got to bye. We're coming back. We don't care about that. They can celebrate all they want. We have bigger plans. And then the whole personal foul, spin the ball. I'm going to beat you. These are the new Buffalo Bills. So that's something that stood out to me that I think was really good. So I'll jump in my Homer time real quick. I don't have much here. Just the New York Giants this year, because their season is now over. I have said it to you many times. I cannot be more satisfied with how this season went as compared to how it could be. You never want to be satisfied. And I hope they aren't in the front office and in the locker room. You should never be satisfied no matter what. But as a fan, as a guy who's loved the New York Giants since I was 6 years old, you walk into this year, lose Saquon Barkley in week 2 or 3. That's a 2-win season for me. And the way they battled, went and beat Seattle on the road, strung together 3 straight wins. And you go to week 17 with a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think you can ask for anything better than that. And just the idea that they never once shifted from who they were to start the season. You start the season, it might be a rough road. You have a new head coach. They stuck the course all the way through. They battled. They went to try to win every single football game, and the games they lost were close. I think it was through when they were 1-7. They had four or five of their losses they had were one-score games. They were this close to being an over 500 football team. So to all you Giants fans, hang in there. You get Saquon back next year. You're going to get a top 10 pick in the draft. I think there's things this I've said it probably 14,000 times. This team reminds me a lot of the Miami Dolphins, who just missed the playoff by one game as well. And how you could flip the switch from one season to the next. So with that being said, I'm satisfied with how it went, Connor. You know, I'm not the Bills, I'm not the 2 seed in the AFC, but you know, things are looking good. Very happy with our new head coach and Joe Judge. So that's it. I'm gonna hand the torch to you, Connor. Take it away. Give us your last call.
You go first. I always go first.
Okay. All right. I'll go first then. So I don't have much for this either. I wasn't sure what to say. I think I put all my energy.
Last call.
I put all my energy into calling out the Philadelphia Eagles
All right.
for blatantly losing a football game on national television. So here's this. Here's my last call for today. We're on the cusp of wild card weekend in the NFL. And I'm always excited for the playoffs, but this year I'm like extremely excited. Just the fact that we get to watch this. I think everyone out there should be very grateful. This NFL season started with so much uncertainty and doubt. There was not one game canceled this year. Sure, you had to play on Tuesdays. There was a game on a Wednesday. The NFL played a game on every single day of the week this year. Every single of the 7 days. And to get this job done, incredible. We love the NFL. And I'm just hoping that we can finish this season out great in the NFL with the playoffs. I hope they're good games. I love the teams in the AFC. It's a loaded AFC this year, which makes it so much more interesting. NFC, not as great, but there's a couple stories in there that you love to see. I would love to see Green Bay get to the Super Bowl because I think Aaron Rodgers deserves it. He's been given a short stick for a while, but he's clearly been one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. On the other hand, I'd love to see Drew Brees get back to the Super Bowl for the Saints. I don't know if they will. And last of all, this is where I'll hand the torch to you, Connor, for your last call. I would love nothing more than to see the Buffalo Bills make a run and get to the Super Bowl. I think I would be more proud of that than if I saw the Giants go there this year. And I mean that full-heartedly because I've seen the struggles of Buffalo over the years. Many of my best friends are Buffalo Bills fans, and I've seen how much this city loves their football team. The pride and joy in the city of Buffalo is amazing. And I told Connor and our buddy Paul, like probably 2 years ago, I said, if the Bills ever win a Super Bowl, I'm coming to Buffalo to hang out. Because I want to see that. There will be nothing like that. You'll never see anything like a celebration in Buffalo after that. So just wrapping it up here, I'll hand it to Connor. The playoffs are here. Let's just enjoy them and be grateful that we got to this point. Go football.
All right, so I took a page out of your book. I got a long one here with some personal references.
Let's hear. Let's get it.
I titled this one "When Fantasy Becomes Reality." Thank you, Michael K., Yankees play-by-play guy. Tales from the Mafia. So I was roughly like 8 or 9 when I really started watching football like heavily because it was tradition in my family, on my mom's side of the family. Every Sunday when we were younger. Some of us kind of shaded away from this as we got older. It was wake up and go to church. Everyone would end up back at my Nana and Papa's house. And the guys would stay for football. Moms and kids would go elsewhere for the Bills game because, you know, they didn't want to hang out and watch football. I normally left when I was younger because I wasn't super interested in watching for a full 60 minutes. Didn't have the attention span. I wasn't super interested in it yet. One day, totally freaked out. I decided to stay for a game. And my papa, loved him to death, very passionate man. The reason that I'm as passionate as I am about football today, stayed, and he's your typical yelling at the TV guy. Pass it down to me as well. 90% of guys who watch football scream at the TV. I didn't know that at the time. Had no idea. So he's sitting there yelling at the TV with a Budweiser in hand, sitting on his recliner in the corner. I can picture it perfectly because they're not even at the same house anymore. But I left that first day of watching the game, asking my non and my parents, is Papa always drunk and angry when he watches football? The answer was no. It's just what happens when you go through the years, expecting a team that made 4 straight Super Bowls become the laughingstock of the NFL for almost 2 decades. Years went on. I started going there every Sunday for the games about a year later, realizing that I was missing out on tradition. The Sunday spread, the mini bets we'd have, the football cards, throwing the ball around with my cousin at halftime, filling up a beer mug with a Bills logo on it just because that's what the grown-ups had. But I put Pepsi in there, but they had beer, and I just wanted part of the tradition every single Sunday. But every single Sunday was the false hope during those years from thinking we finally found a quarterback, starting 4-0, not making the playoffs, thinking we had a franchise guy and guys like J.P. Lossman, Trent Edwards, or even thinking that C.J. Spiller could somehow get us to the playoffs and be our Lord and Holy Savior as a running back. The miserable years. But we always did the same thing. Pops' house on Sundays. Pops' house on Sundays, the only thing we looked forward to win, lose, or draw. That's all it was. Watch the game because we loved the Bills. It was our bond. And it's a bond that'll never be broken with me and my family, and I'm sure with other families as well. So fast forward to 2020. We have a product on the field that is incredibly worth the watch. A team that it brings feelings of the 90s and shows the younger ones what the 90s what the 90s felt like. Shows the older ones a little bit of reminiscent of the 90s. We haven't gotten to a Super Bowl yet, but the pure dominance as a team and at the quarterback position sure as hell feels like it, even though I was not around for it. Except this is different, and my papa even agreed. And I had multiple conversations with my grandfather once, twice a week. That this is something special, and it's only the beginning. The culture, the talent, the depth, the overall feel, and I pray that this is the year. I pray that there's years to come as well, but not just for the city and the franchise, but so younger fans can also build that same bond that I've built with my grandfather, my cousin, my dad, my uncles. And I pray so that the younger ones can build that same bond with their relatives as well, because it is something that cannot be broken. You have it forever as a Buffalo fan. And sports bring friends and families together, and this team has brought a whole city together. That's why we're called Bills Mafia, not just because we funnel liquor, light ourselves on fire, and smash tables. I promise you it's not that. It's because we're loyal. We've built a bond. We're here forever. And more importantly, because Mafia means family. Last call.
Wow.
Go Bills.
Man's giving me the chills over here. Man. Tears in
me up.
my eye.
Fire me up.
You just went from that to a fire me up, huh?
Fire me up.
Wow. Well, you know what, Connor? I'm rooting for the Bills.
I am too.
Really? Oh, man. Go Bills. Well, Connor, if this is a year to happen, I think it would be perfect. So,
hey,
there.
I'm going to throw this out there because I haven't told you about it, but I thought about it during the show. I know you want to do a show Friday, and you said that we might not have a lot to talk about, but I know what we're doing Friday.
What are we doing?
The first annual Beyond the Box Score end of year awards show.
Okay.
We're going to give our end of year awards.
Okay.
And then maybe more playoff talk.
That sounds good to me. We got to get through our bracket. So people are watching.
We'll do our bracket. We'll do our bracket, and we will have our end of year award show.
All right. The Beyond the Box Score end of the year awards and the Beyond the Box Score road to the Super Bowl bracket bust. That's what we're going to do. And maybe we'll have a guest on. Who knows? We'll see. We got a lot of time to fill. So tune in on Friday for Beyond the Box Score. For Connor Priester across the screen, I'm Cole Johnson. Thank you for joining us on Beyond the Box Score. We'll see you later.